March 11th, 2011, 2:46 p.m. in Japan. A magnitude 9.1 earthquake has just torn open the Pacific Sea floor. The crack stretches 400 kilometers along the coast of Japan.
The terrifying moment when it all began.
Broadcast tonight, the big one hits Japan, a massive history-making earthquake, one of the largest ever measured. And it triggers a massive tsunami all the way to the U.S.
40.5 meter waves, 6 minutes, 18,000 dead by nightfall.
At least more than 1,000 people have been either dead or missing, and the toll continues to mount.
Japan's warning system had never seen a wave like this. The Pacific Ocean had never moved this much water at once. No nuclear plant on Earth had been built to survive what was coming.
This is the story of the wave that almost broke Japan.
Along the Pacific shoreline of Japan, in villages most travelers never visit, there are stone markers carved into the cliffs. Some are 600 years old. The inscription is always the same: do not build below this point. Japan has lived with earthquakes the way most countries live with rain. The country sits on the meeting point of 4 tectonic plates. The earliest written records of tsunamis on the Tohoku coast date to the year 869. For more than 1,000 years, Japan had been preparing for this exact day. By 2011, Japan also had the most advanced earthquake warning system in the world. Seafloor sensors fed real-time data to central monitoring stations. Public sirens reached every coastal town. Cell phone alerts could push tsunami warnings to millions of people within seconds. Seawalls along most of the coast were built to handle waves up to 6 meters. The nuclear power plants were designed for the worst case the engineers could imagine. The engineers had been imagining the wrong worst case. The hazard maps used by towns like Okawa, north of Sendai, said tsunamis would not reach more than a few hundred meters inland. The seawall at Fukushima Daiichi was built for a wave just under 6 meters. The largest tsunami in the historical record for this stretch of coast, 1896, Sanriku, had been 38.2 meters. In 2011, the wave at Miyako would be 40.5 meters. The warnings were there. They had always been there. At 2:46 p.m., the seafloor tears open. Office buildings in Tokyo, 300 kilometers away, sway for 6 full minutes. Skyscrapers in Shinjuku flex like trees in a storm. In Sendai, much closer to the epicenter, the ground does not just shake, it lurches. People on the streets cannot stand. Furniture walks across living room floors. Shelves empty themselves. 3 minutes in, the Japan Meteorological Agency issues a major tsunami warning. Sirens go up across the Tohoku coast. Loudspeakers in coastal villages broadcast a single urgent message: head for higher ground. But the people on the ground are still living through the earthquake itself. Some are crouched under desks. Others are running into the streets, trying to confirm that their families are still alive. Tsunami warnings happen often in Japan. Most pass without a wave large enough to matter. This one is different. While the shaking is still happening, the seafloor along a 400-kilometer fault has lifted by up to 10 meters. The displaced water, billions of tons of it, now has nowhere to go but outward. In the deep Pacific, the wave moves at 700 kilometers per hour, almost as fast as a jet airliner. From the surface, it is barely visible. A long, slow swell that looks almost gentle, But as it crosses the shallow continental shelf and reaches the coastline, the water piles up. What is a meter-high swell in deep ocean becomes a 10, 20, 30-meter wall at the shore. 20 minutes after the quake, the first waves hit the northern Tohoku coast. The countdown for Sendai is shorter than that.
For the people along the coast, the warning signs arrive in a specific order.
First, the sea pulls back. Hundreds of meters of beach are suddenly exposed. Boats sitting in harbors find themselves on dry sand. Old fishermen recognize the sign immediately. Their grandparents had warned them about it. The sea breathing in before it breathes out. Then comes the sound. A low rumble like a distant freight train, getting louder, getting closer, getting larger than any train has any right to be. Survivors will later describe it the same way storm survivors always describe such things, like the world itself coming apart. And then, a dark line on the horizon. The line gets closer. Then it is no longer a line, it is a wall. In Miyako, the wall is 40 meters tall. In Kamaishi, helicopter footage shows the wave climbing over the massive seawall as if the wall is paper. Cars on a coastal road are pushed sideways by the leading edge, then upward, then carried out of frame. In Kesennuma, the entire commercial fishing fleet is lifted out of the harbor, carried inland, and dropped between houses. One ship, the Asia Symphony, will be found resting on a residential street the next day, 3 city blocks from the water. In Otsuchi, the town hall is completely submerged by the torrent, trapping officials on the upper floors. This is happening up and down a 500-kilometer coastline at the same moment in broad daylight. The Sendai floodplain is one of the flattest pieces of land on the Tohoku coast. Rice paddies stretch for kilometers between the sea and the foothills. There is nothing for the wave to climb over and nothing to slow it down. The tsunami enters Sendai Airport from the seaward side. Within 60 minutes of the earthquake, the entire first floor of the main terminal is under 3 meters of black water. Cars in the long-term parking lot are floating against the chain link fences. About 1,300 people, passengers, ground staff, evacuated residents from nearby neighborhoods, have climbed to the rooftop and the upper floors. They stand there and watch the wave come in across the runways. Some of them have phones still working. They start filming. The footage from that rooftop is the footage the rest of the world will see. Black water carrying cars, trees, broken houses, and fuel oil from burst storage tanks. In places, the water is on fire. Whole neighborhoods are being unmade in real time. The wave travels 10 kilometers inland from the Sendai coastline. In some places, 15. Rice fields turn into lakes. Cemeteries are scoured. Wooden houses are pulled off their foundations and reduced to splinters within minutes. By the end of the day, more than 122,000 buildings will be completely destroyed. Almost 1 million more will be damaged. But the part of the disaster the rest of the world will remember most starts a few hundred kilometers further south. At Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power station, 6 reactor units sit on a low cliff above the Pacific. The seawall protecting them is 5.7 meters high. At 3:27 p.m., 41 minutes after the quake, the first tsunami wave hits the wall. Most of it is deflected. At 3:35 p.m., the second wave arrives. This one is 15 meters tall. It rolls over the seawall as if the wall is not there, floods the lower levels of the reactor buildings, and drowns the emergency diesel generators that are supposed to keep the cooling pumps running. In the same minute, all backup power to 3 operating reactors is gone. Exactly when those reactors are still running on residual heat, the cooling stops. And underneath 3 reinforced concrete buildings, 3 nuclear cores start melting. The first tsunami in history to cause a nuclear disaster is now underway. In the middle of all this, ordinary people make impossible decisions. In Ishinomaki, a man named Hideaki Akaiwa is at work when the earthquake hits. His town is one of the hardest hit on the coast. He rushes home to find his neighborhood under more than 3 meters of cold, black water. His wife of 2 decades, Hiroko, is somewhere inside their flooded house. He cannot wait for rescue services. There are no rescue services that are not already overwhelmed. He borrows a wetsuit from a friend. He puts it on, walks into the water, and starts swimming. 200 meters through floating wreckage, wood, broken glass, dead cars, parts of houses, things he tries not to look at. He reaches his own house. The upper floor is the only part still above water. Hiroko is there. He gets her out. The next day, he goes back into the water to look for his mother. He cannot find her. He keeps going back for 4 days. On the 5th day, March 15th, he finds her on the upper floor of a different flooded house. Alone, terrified, still alive. He gets her out too. Then, instead of stopping, he spends the next week diving into other flooded houses across Ishinomaki, looking for other people's families. A few kilometers up the coast, the story does not end this well. At Okawa Elementary School, a class of students and their teachers gather in the schoolyard after the shaking stops, exactly as their disaster plan tells them to. Some parents arrive to pick up their children. The school staff urge them to stay. The prefecture's official hazard map, issued in 2004, says Okawa is safe from tsunamis. It has not been inundated in living memory. 40 minutes pass. Tsunami warnings on the radio are upgraded from 6 meters to 10 meters. The staff cannot agree on what to do. There is no plan in the school's disaster manual that names higher ground. Finally, they choose a route along the river, toward an elevation of 6 to 7 meters. 51 minutes after the earthquake, the tsunami reaches the school. Most of the people who set out on that road do not survive. A Japanese court would later rule the school's evacuation negligent and award the families compensation. In Japan today, Okawa is the name that defines what went wrong on March 11th. Not because the wave was uniquely powerful there, but because the people in charge had the time to act and didn't. And inside the Fukushima Daiichi plant, while the reactors are melting, 50 workers refuse to leave. They will later be called the Fukushima 50. They are mostly older operators and engineers, led by the plant manager, Masao Yoshida. They work in near total darkness, in radioactive air, with no working instruments for hours at a time. They run hoses from fire trucks to try to cool the reactors with seawater. They string improvised power lines through the rubble. Their families do not hear from them for days. When word gets out that more volunteers are needed, a group of about 250 retired Japanese engineers, most of them over the age of 60, asks to take over the most dangerous work. Their argument is short and brutal. Radiation damage takes decades to cause cancer. They do not have decades left to lose. The government accepts the offer. By the morning of March 12th, the scale of what has happened starts to become clear. Entire towns along 500 kilometers of coastline are simply gone. Not damaged, gone. Reduced to fields of broken wood, broken cars, broken concrete, and human remains. By the end of the week, 3 reactors at Fukushima Daiichi have suffered partial or full meltdowns. Hydrogen explosions blow the roofs off 2 reactor buildings. A 30-kilometer evacuation zone is drawn around the plant. About 150,000 residents leave their homes, most with no idea when they will come back. Many of them never will. The death toll climbs slowly because so many bodies are buried under debris or carried out to sea. By 2026, the official numbers stand at 15,901 confirmed dead and 2,519 still listed as missing and presumed dead. More than 18,000 people in total. The direct economic damage reaches $210 billion. To this day, it is the costliest natural disaster in recorded human history. At its peak in June 2012, almost 347,000 people are still living in evacuation shelters or temporary housing. Whole towns are eventually moved inland to higher ground. The old coastal neighborhoods are zoned as memorial parks, fields, and seawalls. Japan rebuilds, the way Japan always rebuilds. New seawalls go up, some of them 12, even 15 meters tall. New evacuation routes are mapped, with the routes pointing higher than ever before. New stone markers go in along the coast, but the most lasting change is not in the seawalls or the maps. For more than a century, the design of every major coastal seawall in Japan had assumed that the worst tsunami of the past would be the worst tsunami of the future. After March 11, 2011, that assumption is gone. Today, every coastal city in Japan, and many along the Pacific Rim, plans for the wave that has not yet happened. The records from 869, from 1611, from 1896, from 1933, they now sit alongside a single line from March 11, 2011. The day a wall of water, taller than a 12-story building, came in from the sea, kept going for 10 kilometers, took 18,000 lives, melted 3 nuclear reactors, and almost ended a country. Videos like this take an enormous amount of time for our team to create. Days of researching survivor testimonies, studying reports, gathering footage, writing, animating, editing, sound designing, and trying to tell these stories with as much care and respect as possible. Because behind every number in a disaster like this was a real person. So if you think stories like these deserve to be remembered, consider supporting the channel. A single like, comment, or share genuinely helps more than you think, and it allows our team to keep making documentaries like this. And to everyone already supporting the channel and watching these videos until the end, thank you. Seriously.